Let's discuss what went wrong with new sriracha. Now, if you've been following this, if you're coming into this stream right now or listening on the replay, you probably really care about sriracha, probably just like me. And if the last year has been an indication, we have had kind of a shortage going on where we weren't able to get sriracha. We had to kind of go for some alternative brands, and I want to talk a little bit about that kind of toward the end here. But I did find a new bottle of sriracha that came from the newer production of the sriracha. The first thing that I noticed when I saw this bottle in comparison with the bottles that I have, and mind you, I actually haven't bought sriracha in quite a while. I have a bottle at my desk, which I call desk sriracha at work, that I use for my lunch, obviously, and any other types of snacks that I have that require hot sauce. And I have one at home, which I keep in my refrigerator, which is actually getting down pretty low. And at some point, we're going to do a taste comparison, probably next week here on the live stream. But the first thing that I noticed about the new sriracha is that it's more orange and less of a deep dark red. Now, what goes into this product is completely agricultural, right? If you read the ingredients, it's actually pretty easy to reverse engineer. Chili, gar- chili, sugar, salt, garlic, acetic acid, vinegar, potassium sorbate, sodium bisulfite, um, as preservatives, and xanthan gum, which thickens it up. We're going to talk about the chemicals too, because as I've been actually doing some research for this video, there's a rabbit hole that you get into when you compare the labels. Now, that was the first thing that I saw that was different was the color, and that led me to do a side-by-side comparison of the label. Now, there is actually a segment of this label that is not on the original bottle, and it's this down here where it says product may contain chemicals on California's Prop 65 list and or unforeseen allergens stated to avoid risk of incorrect information provided. And you read that, and it sounds very legal. It doesn't sound like anything that really makes sense. And I want to actually get into this Prop 65 business as well, because it's a whole rabbit hole. Now, what I was talking about in terms of the shortage, there was a Great Sriracha Shortage, and it kind of started around the end of 2022. And this article, where they declared an LAist, they declared it was over in late 2023. Now, mind you, this bottle that I found, I didn't find until actually my wife found it about a week ago at Target. And until then, I hadn't even been in the market for sriracha. I actually wanted to do a live stream comparing srirachas um, for 2023, but I hadn't found it. So we finally found one, and now it has this statement on it. And I want to talk about the statement because it's very interesting to me how we get to that. And again, here I'll kind of do a little bit of circling. People seem to like that in the new style videos. This is what we're talking about. This California Prop 65. And the reason why I think this is super interesting is I actually looked up Proposition 65, and they actually have a database of the chemicals that are in this Proposition 65, and we're going to get right into that. So this is the Prop 65 list. It's from California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment. So it's some kind of political agency which is providing some kind of actual uh, I'll read it to you. The list contains a wide range of naturally occurring and synthetic chemicals that are known to cause cancer or birth defects or other reproductive harm. The chemicals include additives or ingredients in pesticides, common household products, food, drugs, dyes, or solvents. Listed chemicals may also be used in manufacturing and construction, or they may be byproducts of chemical processes such as motor vehicle exhaust. On the surface, that's a pretty clear statement, but it actually sweeps pretty wide, especially when you look at the part of the sentence here where it says additives or ingredients in pesticides. That's actually that threw me for a loop a little bit because that can mean anything, additives or ingredients in pesticides. So if you have anything naturally occurring, it's going to land on this Proposition 65 list. Now, here's where I did a little sleuthing. So most of you guys know if you're coming into the stream, you're probably a true fan. Um, I'm a chemist by trade, so I actually work in FDA regulated science. We do a lot of things with, you know, carcinogens and drugs to treat carcinogens. So I'm very aware of, all these types of lists and things like that. But when it comes to this specific list, if you actually pull up the ingredients on sriracha, I searched all the chemical entities here in the Prop 65 search bar, right? I did that right before the stream here. And lo and behold, none of them came up. So that brings me back to this statement here about additives or ingredients in pesticides, because the only thing, if you go to the ingredients, chili, sugar, garlic, salt, acetic acid, potassium sorbate, sodium bisulfate as preservatives, xanthan gum. From all that, sugar is not going to be on this list. Sugar is in everything. Salt, sodium chloride. I searched every permutation of table salt that you can have that would be in this list. Acetic acid was not in there. So the only culprits actually are the chili and the garlic from the perspective of these additives or ingredients that are in the pesticides. And this actually brings me to the reason for the shortage. This is actually really interesting, and there's a lot of stories out there, and I don't know the truth. So I'm going to tell you what I've taken in from all the different stories that I've heard in terms of what happened over the past couple of years with sriracha. There's a documentary that I saw that was about sriracha probably close to 10 years ago now, where they talk about the origins, and they talk about how this bottle with the green top is not the original sriracha. There's actually a version from Vietnam that's called Sriracha Panich, and I've actually had it before. It's a very different sauce. It's still a chili sauce, but the balance of sugar and garlic is completely different. Um, if you have a Whole Foods, my Whole Foods had that. That's where I found it. I would implore you, if you're a fan of this sriracha sauce, definitely give that a try. And it's something that I'd like to have some discourse around. Did you like that sauce or not? If when you do try it. So that's the origin of the sriracha sauce. But this sauce here is actually a completely American construct, which has actually migrated its way back to Vietnam and Asian countries. You'll find this in sushi restaurants in America and in Asia, um, as well as anywhere they serve pho in the U.S. and Vietnam, Thailand, all those places. Red bottle, green top. So this is now iconic in terms of, what's going on here. So the thing that happened over the past few years, the manufacturer of this sauce. This is what I've seen on a lot of videos discussing sriracha and discussing the shortage. The manufacturer of this sriracha sauce was purchasing the peppers to make the sriracha from a place in California. They kind of cut each other into the deal. It was the supply chain. He would grow the peppers, and they would use the peppers to make the sauce. Somewhere in the 2015 to 2018 time, there was a whole thing about how that operation of growing the peppers was causing a lot of exhaust into the areas surrounding the sriracha factories, which caused a lot of inquiry into their production techniques. And honestly, if a sriracha factory popped up next door and they started making this stuff and it was making my lungs burn, I'd have a little bit of a problem with that. So rightfully so, this is what happened. After all that kind of died down, right around the time of 2020, when we were dealing with the thing, um, the manufacturer of the sauce decided they wanted to get in the pepper growing business and cut the guy out of the growing business. So the shortage, from what I amass, is not something that was caused by um, a supply issue where you can't get these peppers. You can get peppers to make sriracha in any supermarket. They look exactly like jalapeno peppers. They're called Fresno chilies, and they're just red. They're red instead of green. You can make your own sriracha. It's very easy to reverse engineer. Um, and if you do some Google searching, you could find some really good recipes with like even lacto fermentation, where you make the base and then you put it in a jar and you let it sit for like a week, and it gets like, whatever bacteria and yeast that would actually ferment it a little bit and make something that's pretty darn good. So the the fact that now the peppers are being grown by a different entity, and they basically cut out the original person, it very well could go into why this sauce tastes different. And I actually found an article. I think what I might do after the stream, I'm gonna update the notes in the video below this to have some of these links to this stuff. There's a case study I saw on this business manual website, published right around the time as this other article declaring the shortage as being over, where they talk about this lawsuit between the two places. And they're talking about why the taste of the sriracha has changed. And I found it captivating. Over the past month or so, now that sriracha can be found in a lot of supermarkets, I've been seeing a lot of people online saying sriracha ain't the same. And I don't have a firsthand experience to tell you right now. I just want to cover all of this type of stuff today, and then maybe next week get into some like nitty-gritty tasting, because I have hot sauces up the wazoo here. I have this Tabasco sriracha sauce, which I bought close to the end of last year, which I still haven't tried, which I heard is amazing. I have also a bottle that I've been squirreling away of Ninja Squirrel sriracha sauce, which for a while was my favorite hot sauce in general. I would put this on everything. Even I would have always have a bottle of this in the house and a bottle of this. Um, I have a variant of this sauce that actually is made with coconut milk that I actually have in the refrigerator. So what I might do next week is line up a bunch of these srirachas and do side by side, with the intent actually being very first thing we're going to do old sriracha versus new sriracha. And I actually have two bottles of old sriracha that I'll include in this experiment, just to get to the bottom of what's the deal. Is this different? Does it taste different? In terms of what people are saying, there's articles out here talking about why the sauce has changed. So I want to get to the bottom of that, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. But don't let anybody fool you. It's not because there was a supply chain issue and they couldn't grow the peppers. They weren't buying the peppers that the guy was growing. That's the whole thing. They weren't placing orders for the peppers because they were getting into the business of growing their own peppers. When you scale to a certain point, all of these different raw material vendors that you pay, it cuts into your bottom line. So if you can get in the business of making the peppers that go into the sauce, you cut out the middleman, and there you go. We have Home Rapid Repair here who says, my adult son loves that brand of sriracha. I do too. You can't go wrong with this. In fact, people all over the world put this all over everything. In terms of my uses, I've kind of moved away from eating too many hot sauces, but a couple squirts of this on my eggs in the morning, that's definitely a thing. And then if I eat like chicken or like beef, like this is basically my go-to. Even though I counted, and I think I have close to 30 to 35 bottles of hot sauce in the house. I mean, right here alone, I have 3, and the others that I just told you about, that's just sriracha alone. So I'm kind of a hoarder when it comes to hot sauces. But I thought that was interesting. But another thing that I found in doing this whole digging, going back to the Proposition 65 thing and looking back at the label here, in terms of like this is what I actually think are the real culprits, is the chili and the garlic. But I found this article which is real super interesting, where it looks like Excuse me, my throat is super dry. Let me hydrate a little bit. Sometimes when you talk on video, you kind of lose the fact that you're going hot, so you need to slow it down a little bit. So that's I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious of that. But this here, and this was published back in August. Why does Sriracha have a Prop 65 label on it? Interesting, right? It's like somebody noticed it as soon as it came out because August to now, that's 5 months, right? Because I just got this a week ago, so that they're wondering the same thing. So let me scroll through this article and kind of highlight a few things. It's giving people a heads up if something might expose them to chemicals, which could lead to cancer or mess with reproductive health. So if you go through this, it gives you this whole warning business. It says, first, let's talk about Prop 65, the law from sunny California. It's a rule that says businesses need to give folks a warning if a product might have chemicals in it that could cause cancer or other nasty stuff like birth defects. Sounds simple enough, right? So here um, they essentially come to the conclusion that there's no conclusion to be made based on what's on the label. So I think this whole thing about including this new Prop 65 portion of the description is kind of a CYA. Again, let's go through what the ingredients are again. I can't drive this home enough because people say, oh, it's chemicals, and they lose sight of the fact that some of these chemicals are just common things, very common things. Where am I here? There we go. All right, we'll do blue this time. Chili, sugar, salt, garlic, acetic acid, potassium sorbate, sodium bisulfite as preservatives, xanthan gum. So sugar, we know, is at this point we can call it naturally occurring, even though it's probably more synthetic than anything extracted from corn and all different processes. Salt comes from mines, seas, all that type of stuff. Garlic is a agricultural, chilies agricultural, acetic acid also is agricultural, even though it's acetic acid. It sounds scary. It's just vinegar. It's just distilled white vinegar as acetic acid. Potassium sorbate, which is a chemical, but it's not on the Prop 65 list. So that's not it. Sodium bisulfite, again, a chemical, but it's not on the list. If you search in here for it, and I didn't make the search specific to um I did one word at a time, both words. Sometimes if you don't put it in exactly, it doesn't come up. So I made sure I covered my bases on that. So it's not that. Xanthan gum is in everything. It's in your ice cream. It's in anything that has any kind of thickness to it, or even a little bit of body has a little bit of xanthan gum in it. Um, for a fun thing, if you make yourself like a protein shake or something, and you want to turn your protein shake into ice cream. So if you make yourself a protein shake, you want to turn it into like instant ice cream, add like a couple of sprinkles of xanthan gum to it and watch what happens to your blender. It literally seizes up like like there's concrete in there, and it takes literally just a couple sprinkles of the xanthan gum. I was stupid at one point, and I tried to do that with a protein shake to make like protein ice cream, and I put like a quarter of a teaspoon of xanthan gum in there, which you look at it, you're like, that's nothing. But like literally it takes just a couple of sprinkles, you have to spread it with a little bit of that to get that. But back to this Prop 65 thing, I keep diverting myself. The only things that it could be due to are the chili and the garlic, and we know this is not an organically labeled product. So there are definitely going to be pesticides involved in the growing of the chili and the garlic, which is probably why they have this CYA statement on here. Just so that somebody who says they put the 3 bottles of this on their food per day can't turn around and sue the company, what is it, Hui Fong Foods, that makes sriracha. Um, I mean, even though you wouldn't have a leg to stand on, I think it's interesting when people try to get litigious about things like, organic foods and stuff like that. We ingest so much stuff, and you drink so much water and other beverages. How are you going to prove that it came from here? If you end up getting cancer that was chemically induced, how can you physiologically prove that this was the source? Like how will you ever be able to go for that? But I guess that's kind of a law. And since this is produced in California, I would imagine most of the production is done in California. It's probably a big deal because of that. It's like a hometown product kind of thing. Got my brother Dom in here. You can make it if you want to burn your eyes. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I cooked with a jalapeno last week. I think we were on the phone when this happened. My family came back inside after. I got the initial waft of the pepper hitting the pan, and all that like capsaicin in the air, and I thought that was done, but apparently it filled the air in the house, and everybody was coughing when they got home. It was kind of interesting. Making your own hot sauce is not for the faint of heart. Um, I honestly, I dabbled with it at one point, but it's not for me. It's too much work when you can get a bottle, this $4 bottle of sriracha, which will last me a month or two, and then you have other ones. This one interests me a lot. I'm excited to do this one next week. If you look at the ingredients on the Tabasco version, red jalapeno pepper, water, sugar, salt, garlic, distilled vinegar, xanthan gum, and it has Tabasco brand pepper sauce as an ingredient. So it'll be really interesting to see how this tastes, because I imagine it'll taste very close to the Wei Fong sriracha, but it'll actually have a little bit of that bite of like Tabasco. And this one here is also an interesting one. This comes from Whole Foods. Um, I don't know if it's Whole Foods brand or what, but it actually even has their logo on it, which is interesting. It says it's distributed by them, but whatever. So if you read the ingredients on this one, red jalapeno puree, red chili puree, water, cane sugar, garlic puree, organic distilled white vinegar, salt, garlic, habanero pepper powder, and xanthan gum. That's interesting. I always thought this one was a little bit more spicy than this one, and I guess that's because of the addition of the habanero pepper powder. But yeah, so now that we've gotten to the bottom of what caused the shortage, which wasn't a shortage in these red peppers that go into the sriracha, it was these guys trying to cut each other out of their business, which is referenced in this article here, which I'll link down below after I finish up here. A very spicy lawsuit. You got to love the copy on that. Somebody sat at their desk and was like, "Oh yeah, this is hot sauce. We can come up with a really good pun for this one and hook them in on this article." So that's what caused it. Um, the whole idea was going to be I was going to accumulate a bunch of these sriracha sauces and see which one is an adequate substitution for this one. But now that this one's back in production, although it tastes different, so maybe there is a better sriracha out there. We're going to find that out next week. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe so that comes up in your feed when it does. And I'm going to end it there. Thanks a lot for watching. I have new long form video coming Saturday, shorts going up every week. Thanks a lot for all your support. Make sure you like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.